Hello everyone! Welcome to today's Five Voices podcast with me. How's your day? I hope it's great. It's me, Hikmah Wardani, or you can call me Imma, as today's host for the podcast. And of course, I'm not alone. I will be accompanied with three of my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ria, Ia, and May.
Hi! Hello everyone, my name is Heria. You can call me Ria.
Hi, and my name is Putri Nathalia. Just call me Ya.
And my name is Risma Nur Meilani. You can call me May. The four of us will be in today's podcast to accompany you in this opportunity.
Okay, so since everyone's already here, does anyone know what we will talk about?
Oh yes, of course. Today we're going to talk about something fun, even though it's been a long time since it happened.
What's this about and when?
It's about the Stanford prison experiment which happened back in 1917.
Correct.
That sounds interesting.
It is interesting. Today, we're going to talk about Stanford prison experiment. Have you heard that before? If you haven't, please stay tuned with us. So, before we talk about this Stanford prison experiment, we need to know first, what is Stanford University, right?
Right, but I'm pretty sure that most of us already know about it.
It is a very famous university after all.
Yes, for everyone who doesn't know what is a Stanford University is. Stanford is an elite private university located in Stanford, California in the San Francisco Bay Area. It is a mid-sized institution with enrollment of 5,752 undergraduate students. Popular majors include computer science, biology, and engineering, graduating 95% of students. Stanford alumni go on to the air starting salary of $70,400.
I see.
How amazing! It is!
When railroad magnate and farmer California government Leland Stanford and his wife Jenny Lathrop lost their only child, Leland Jr., they decided to build a university as the most victim memorial and didn't to it a larger fortune that include 80,180 acre Palo Alto stock that became the campus. The campus is located within the traditional territory of the Ohlone tribe. The Stanford made theirs just as modern research university was taking form.
Yes, that was the explanation about Stanford University and also its history. Thank you, Ria.
Yes, you are welcome.
Now, we already know about Stanford University. Without further ado, let's move on to our main topics, which is Stanford prison experiment. Stanford prison experiment is a social psychological study in which college students become prisoners or guards under a simulated prison environment. This experiment took place in Stanford University in August 1971. It was intended to measure the effects of role-playing, labeling, and social expectation on behavior over a period of 2 weeks. However, mistreatments of a prisoner escalated so alarmingly that principal investigator Philip Zimbardo terminated the experiments after only 6 days. About 24 applicants were judged to be mentally and physically healthy was selected to be the paid subject. They received $15 a day and were divided randomly into equal numbers of prisoners and guards. The guards were ordered not to physically abuse the prisoners and were issued to wear mirror sunglasses to prevent any eye contacts. The prisoners were arrested by a real police and was handed over to the experiments in a mock prison in the basement of a campus building. Each prisoner was made to wear a dress as a uniform and carry a chain padlock in one ankle. All participants were observed and videotaped by the experimenters.
That sounds cruel.
Yay, I think so.
Yes, and only the second day the prisoners staged a rebellion within the first 4 days. 3 prisoners staged had become traumatized that they were released, and the guards became cruel and tyrannical. And because of this, Zimbardo concluded the experiment less than a week after it had started.
That sounds terrible. I'm glad the experiment stopped less than a week after it started.
Me too. What do you think about this, Iya?
I am more interested in how they are so good at acting with each other during a fake arrest at their home with offense they of course never commit. I think that's the strength of people in Hollywood City.
I see.
Alright, since we already introduced these experiments, I think the audience also wants to know more about this Stanford prison experiment, right?
Right.
Okay then, without further ado, let's talk about it.
Okay, on the morning of 17 August 1971, 9 young men in the Palo Alto area received visits from a local police officer. While their neighbor looking on, the men were arrested for armed robbery and burglary, searched, handcuffed, and led into the rear of the waiting police car. The cars took them to Palo Alto police stations before finally they were transported to the Stanford University Department of Psychology.
They were the willing participants of Stanford Prison University, one of the most controversial studies in the history of social psychology. The participants were middle-aged college students who had been answering the questionnaire about their family backgrounds, their physical and mental health history, and also their social behavior, and had been deemed normal. A coin flip divided them into prisoners or guards. According to the lore that has grown up around the experiments, the guards, with little to no instruction, began humiliating and psychologically abuse the prisoners within 24 hours after the study starts. The prisoners, in turn, became submissive and depersonalized, taking the abuse and saying little in the protest.
Less than a decade earlier, the milligram obedience study had shown that ordinary people, if encouraged by an authority figure, were willing to shock their fellow citizens with what they believed to be painful and potentially lethal levels of electricity. Yep, that was true. The Stanford experiment revealing the ease with which regular people, if given too much power, could transport into ruthless oppressors. Today, more than 45 years later, many look to the study to make sense of events like the behavior of the guards at this experiment. The Stanford prison experiment is cited as evidence of the artistic impulses that lie within us all. It's said to show that with a little nudge, we could all become tyrants. I agree with that because power will turn all people bad.
Moreover, human nature is very easy to get bored doing the same routine. Good people also turn very bad because they have never held firm principles of life and try experiments that have never been done. Me too. And one more thing, this is experiment didn't kill anyone, but what was scary for me was, can you imagine how terrible of what might happen in human brain, like Professor Zambado who didn't realize when the experiment had gone awry because he felt he had authority. We may didn't aware that we abusing our power too. So this is terrible.
You both have a good point.
And yet the lessons of the Stanford prison experiment are so clear-cut. From the beginning, the study has been haunted by ambiguity, even as it suggests that ordinary people harbor ugly potentialities. It also testifies to the way our circumstances shape our behavior. I agree with that one too.
But what did the Stanford prison experiments really shows?
He described the study as an attempt to understand just what it means psychologically to be a prisoner or a prison guard.
I see. Then why don't we talk about the psychological studies in this experiment?
Why not?
Okay, so now let's move on to the last section of the podcast.
The Stanford prison experiment has been included in many introductory psychology textbooks and is often cited critically. It's the subject of movie, documentary, books, television show, and congressional testimony. But its findings were wrong, very wrong, and not just due to its questionable ethics or lack of concrete data, but because of the site.
A new expose published by the Medium, based on previously unpublished recording of Philip Zimbardo, the Stanford psychologist who ran the study and interviews with his participants, offers a convincing evidence that the guards in the experiments were coached to be cruel. It also shows that the most memorable moments of these experiments was a prisoners who descending into a screaming fit, proclaiming, "I'm burning up inside!" And he said it was a result of the prisoners acting. One of the guards also told the reporter Bin Blanc that he took it as a kind of an improv exercise. He believed he was doing what the researchers wanted him to do.
Yes, and the defendants have long been subject to scrutiny. Many think of them as more of a dramatic demonstrations, a sort of academic reality show, than a serious bit of science. But these new revelations incited an immediate response. We must stop celebrating this war. Personality psychologist Simon Pritchard tweeted in response to the article, "It is anti-scientific, get it out of textbooks." Many other psychologists have expressed similar sentiments.
So, the conclusion for today's podcast is Stanford Prison Experiment is a social psychology study in which college students became prisoners or guards in simulated prison environment. This experiment took place in Stanford University in August 1971.
This experiment showed the world how quickly people can abuse power when it is given to the wrong people.
After Zimbardo and his fellow scientists came to their senses, they concluded that a person who has in the high rank can put a defense for himself in his head to act as he pleases, even though they actually know what they are doing.
So, the most important questions from the topic is, what happens if you put good people in evil place? Does humanity win over evil, or does evil triumph?
Interesting. Okay, I think we have reached the end of the podcast. I would like to thank all my friends for their hard work so that this podcast can be finished.
We also want to thank our lecturer and our friends from class A who are also the reason why our podcast can be finished.
And of course, thanks to all who have listened to 5 Void podcasts.
I hope there are benefits that can be useful for all of us.
Okay, I think that's all for Five Voices podcast today. I hope you have a great day and see you soon.